Welcome to Anglesey. It is time here for the HMT Racing Thundersport 500s, the elites and the seniors as ever. Full grids here for the 500s. Pete Bardell, the championship leader, can wrap it up here today. Number 222, he's been absolutely unstoppable most of the season. Won both races yesterday from this man, Graham Freer, who has really come on song this year, Graham. An experienced rider and one that is looking to try and push Pete here today, and will do everything possible, I'm sure, to try and prevent Pete Bardell from having his glory.
But just because he can.
Well, just because he can. Number 17 there also on the front row is Angus Goff. So away we go then into turn number 1, and around the outside there, who was that with an electric start? We'll have a look in a moment. Roddy Taylor here, one of the senior cup riders, just getting beaten up into target, turn 1 here at Anglesey, and then it's going to be an absolute melee here down into the banking. Not a lot of room here at the inn, as Roddy Taylor tries to go up round the outside of one, up the inside of another. Just up ahead of him there is number 66, Chris Jones. So Pete Bardell then, is this now going to be his moment? A couple of decent results here today should do it. He has been really, really brilliant this year, Pete Bardell. Last year, of course, he couldn't quite get it done ahead of... Oh, it was Pete who got the whole shot in the end. Well, I don't even know why I was surprised. After a poor start off the line, he's just up ahead of Angus Goff there. The rather bright colours there. You're not going to miss Adrian Teasdale, are you? Interestingly, Adrian can wrap up the Senior Cup title here today. That's not just due to the fact that he has been the better of the riders, but Alan Tanton no longer in the championship. John Bolsover is out injured, and so Roddy Taylor is the only one that can really prevent him from getting that done. Adrian Teasdale then one hand on that championship for the seniors, and we've got a faller already, and that is your classic exit of Club Corner crash, and luckily rider is up and okay. That's Mark Leaning. His step toe's gone down.
Oh dear, poor step toe.
Down and out of the race, unfortunately, for Mark. So Pete Bardell leads from Angus Goff. Then it is Josh Leaning, 1-2-1. No sign of his brother here this weekend, Will. Then it is Graham Freer, number 191. These guys haven't been quite on lap record pace. That lap record set by Ryan Vickers last year of 15.7. No riders have been into the 15s yet, although Pete Bardell at the moment doesn't really look like he needs to. Graham Freer moves up to second place then. Good move from him. So up to second then for number 191. 1-2-1 in third is Josh Leaning. There is Angus Goff in fourth. Just behind those guys, John O'Toole and Adrian Teasdale leading the seniors and looking to hand a bit more pain to the rest of the field. I suppose now would be a good time, Sid, to just quickly recap on what happened between Rockingham and here at Anglesey. The Donington 500 event went on. Looked like a real success. I was gutted I couldn't go, actually, because I was really looking forward to finding out how it went. A huge congratulations go to the eventual winners, Clip and Climb Racing, Ron Haslam no less, John O'Toole and former 500 rider Jack Tynan.
Absolutely amazing event, brilliant. I'm not a big fan of endurance racing, I have to say, and when Dave came up with this idea, Dave Stewart, he came up with this idea of, and I thought, oh my goodness, no. But in the event, 3 hours of this kind of racing, but it was battling all the way through, just gaggles and gaggles and gaggles, right the way through the whole 3 hours. It was never boring. It was really exciting in the pit lane. The Le Mans start was brilliant. Just the whole thing went so well. And to my amazement, 42 out of the 44 teams that started finished the race.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It was just such a success, and to the point where what we'd like to do, and we don't know whether that'll come together, we don't know whether the MSV takeover will prevent it happening again, but if it does happen again next year, it's going to be 6 hours.
Brilliant. Yeah, would love that. Definitely try and get to that one, that's for sure. Donington Park, of course, a lot of talk at the moment about whether or not it could end up hosting MotoGP again from 2018 onwards. But great to for the championship, of course. I think it just goes to show the success of Thundersport 500s in general, Sid, because since this came into play in 2009, it's gone from strength to strength.
Well, we took it over with 8 on the grid. I mean, that's what the old CB500 Championship, CB500 Cup was about, wasn't it, originally? And it has just grown and grown and grown. I just love the way the riders pour so much effort into making these bikes look the business as well. Absolutely brilliant. Great bunch of people. They all work together, help each other out when anything goes wrong. It's a perfect Thundersport GB sporting ethos, I tell you. And a great way for people who haven't got a lot of money to get into racing.
Superb stuff. Well, rather apt, I thought, that Ron Haslam was part of the winning team. Of course, his son Leon, who we all know very well, started out in the 500 Cup.
Yeah, he did, yeah. As did Toseland, of course.
Yep, that's right. JT. In this race, it's Pete Bardell who leads from Graham Freer. Pete Bardell could become champion here. In third place in blue and yellow, 1-2-1 is Josh Leaning, currently second overall in the championship.
Mincing in third.
His brother Will not racing here this weekend. Now, Graham Freer, with that in mind, could move into the top 3 of the championship. In fact, I think he did overnight, courtesy of Will not being here. 5th in the championship, Daniel Otter, not seen him here this weekend. And then it is John O'Toole, who's actually moved up ahead of Otter overnight as well. Here is Bardell then, 2-2-2. Came into the championship known as Rusty, riding a bike that looked a bit of a pile, sorted his act out, learned as the years have gone by, got quicker as the years got by, and smoother. And this is the end product, a champion in waiting, Pete Bardell. He's kind of done it the Joe Barton way. In all of the battles that he's been in, he's made sure that he rarely finds himself out of the top 2 or 3. But more often than not this year, Pete Bardell has been at the sharp end of all of these races. Complete control, although Graham Freer's giving him something to think about here at Anglesey.
He certainly is. And with a little sparkle in his eye, shall we say. He had, when I was talking to Graham yesterday, Sunday, it was he had a little sparkle in his eye and a wry smile. The thought that he could just make it a little bit difficult for Pete.
Good stuff. Well, here he is then trying to put a challenge on him. Up the top of the hill into Rocket, close but not close enough. Josh leading third then. We mentioned before Angus Goff just drifting apart now, back in 4th ahead of John O'Toole, and the Senior Cup Championship leader 34, Adrian Teasdale. James Lee is inside the top 10 as well as Daniel Swift, and Jodie Chalk is firing herself back into the top 10 as well. Jordan Ashington and Chris Jones are scrapping away. Martin Campion, he's going well, a Senior Cup rider whose son Adam going for the championship glory in the freshman 500 class here this weekend.
Jodie Chalk there, still going quite well inside the top 10. She does a good job, does Jodie, and obviously wins quite a lot of stuff up in Scotland. She doesn't just race here. Had a couple of injury problems this year. Probably be disappointed. Oh, that was a bit naughty. I'll tell you what, the old bike then let go there, 191. Graham, he front end went and then the back end went. That'll be a warning to him.
Doesn't look like he's shut off though. He's straight back on the power, and in fact all 3 of these now are closing up to each other and bunching up. In third there, Josh Leaning has got a new lease here as well. Up the hill we go then. Pete Bardell, he had a look over his shoulder a moment ago. He knows he's got company.
Face full of bikes.
Graham Freer and Josh Leaning just behind him. Josh Leaning, the only one that could really prevent Bardell from winning this championship here today. Leaning himself looking to try and end the season as a runner-up in the championship. That would be a PB for him. There's Adrian Teasdale up ahead of James Lee on his Fibre Light Honda, but it is the number 222 then, RP Motorsport rider Pete Bardell, that has the lead just from Freer's Wheels Honda in second. In third is Josh Leaning, whose dad will be watching this race from the middle of the circuit, having come off in the early stages just on the exit of the last corner at this Anglesey circuit. Around the banking we go again then. Will anyone be able to show a front wheel? Josh Leaning there in third, affording a look over his shoulder just to see whether or not he's got company.
Which loses him 3 bike spaces, can you believe? 3 bike lengths.
The only thing he can hope for here is Bardell. What happened there? Did he miss
looked round the wrong way.
He looked round the wrong way. Graham Freer's gone through on him. I don't know if it looked like he missed a gear, but obviously not. He's just lost a lot of time.
How many times do we say it, Steve?
Losing
Riders
count.
look behind and they lose places straight away. Unbelievable.
Well, Bardell now knows that he does have company, and it is Graham Freer who leads then from Bardell and then Leaning. Bardell, of course, won't want to do anything too silly.
Exactly. Maybe he would actually prefer to let Josh in front of him and sit there and look at those two. Do you know what I mean? And maybe not take the championship as early.
Quite possibly. Quite possibly. There is number 73, just going through, Daniel Swift, and then Jody Chalk. Last lap flag is out. Freer, Bardell. Bardell again looks over his shoulder to see where Josh Leaning is.
Yeah, you see, really funny, isn't it? How, really looks like Josh has eased up there. He maybe hasn't. Maybe Graham has turned it up. Pete is actually chasing him, but it's just the way he went into that corner, he minced into that corner, it just looked like he was eased off and thought...
He's never going to live that down, is he, mentioning the mincing around in 6 at the Alton Park? Not with you, anyway. There is Adrian Teasdale up ahead of number 21, James Lee. James Lee having a good ride. These guys are about to be loud. Oh, Bardell thought about a challenge here on the final lap. He certainly has a comfortable gap. He doesn't necessarily need to settle for second place. He's got quite a few points in his back pocket. In fact, if he stays where he is now, and I think that's where he's going to be, he won't be able to launch an assault now. He will be over 200 points up going into the final race of the day, and if that stays the same, he will be crowned champion in race 2. But until then, we should congratulate Graham Freer, because Pete Bardell won't have an answer now. The checkered flag goes out, and Graham Freer, at least for this race, has prevented Pete Bardell from winning the title. A good win there for him, with Bardell in second. Josh Leaning then second in the championship, third in the race. And the trio finishing ahead of Angus Goff on his GFAB Racing Honda. And then the clip and climb endurance champion John O'Toole, with Adrian Teasdale in 6th. Top 3 there then, Graham Freer, Pete Bardell, Josh Leaning. Good job in the elite class, and in the seniors, Adrian Teasdale the winner from Martin Campion and Brett Haley. That's it for race 1. Let's see if Bardell can do the job in race 2 in a couple of minutes. Round 7 of the 2017 championships, and it could be here for Pete Bardell. The HMT Racing Thundersport 500 has had the same champion for the last 2 years, Joe Barton. Well, it isn't to be Joe Barton at the moment, because he's not in the championship this year. Pete Bardell has been brilliant, and he could do it here with a decent result. Graham Freer there, number 191, won the earlier race to stop it from happening. Photobomb opportunity in the background there for Josh Leaning, whoever, as Angus Goff doesn't even get his moment on the front row without Josh sticking his ugly mug into it. Anyway, here we go then. The lights go out for the Thundersport 500s, and a bit of a rough start there for John O'Toole on row 2, but a decent start from Bardell again as he cuts across the front of everyone else into turn 1 at target, and the 500s roar around turn 1 and into then the banking corner. Pete Bardell here only has to maintain a 200-point advantage over Josh Leaning. In other words, Josh would have to win this race and Pete Bardell finish 4th or lower to prevent Pete Bardell from becoming champion. And, you know, anything can happen.
Josh has minced into 3rd.
There is the rest of the field trying to chase up on the early stages already. Number 73 is Daniel Swift. Number 8 is Chris Bramley. Good start for him, but already a bit of a gap there after the top 10 had gone through. Josh leaning there, just having to pick himself up a bit. Adrian Teasdale clinging on to the tail end of this group. Teasdale's come on a lot this year, Sid. You know, I'm not just saying that because he's leading the senior championship and looks like he's going to get that one in the bag, but he's been inching closer to the main sort of podium.
Steve, it was here at this circuit just last year. He was on a Golden Era bike with the corners of his mouth pointing downwards, really fed up with life, having problems, just really not happy. And I mentioned to him about the Thundersport 500s, why not give it a go? I'll tell you what, it's been full of grin factor ever since. He's absolutely loved it all the way through, and his only gripe has been that, well, it isn't a gripe, it's just a suggestion, that we go for race fairings on these so they look prettier, more like race bikes. But as I said to him, that's completely against the budget ethos of the class, and that means that suddenly, you know, as you said when I discussed it with you, you know, you've got to have like a couple of sets of fairings, it's more cost when they go down. On board with Pete Bardell, we haven't had one of his. Oh, look at that!
Your typical cutback move at the rocket corner there, where you just go slightly wide and then get it back on cutback. Pete Bardell then, at the moment, in control. The fairing thing is an interesting one that you mentioned there, that Adrian Teasdale has picked up. I suppose if the entire field were to say they wanted it, you might have to do something about it and see whether it's something worth doing. But this championship has been the same now since year dot. I can't see that changing, but hey, there's a reason I'm sat here talking about them and not making the big decisions, so I'll leave that to you. Well, what we do know about this championship, as great as it is, as close as it is the budget racing. We mentioned it in race one. I noticed in the race programme, actually, from Anglesey, there was a neat little chart that Dave had put together in terms of the cost of racing. And I couldn't actually believe the cost per race average for the 500s. It's so cheap and it's such good value for money. It's unbelievable.
It's cheap is probably not the correct word, because I mean no racing is cheap, but it's potentially affordable, and if you're on a reasonable wage, let's say, I mean depending on your job, etc., you know, you could afford it without sponsors. Obviously it's nice to have sponsors, or like, you know, Club 222, just as we're on board with Pete Bardell, for example, and there goes the same thing happening all over again at Rocket. You know, where you say get 222 people paying 222 quid, you know, and or like 121 for Josh, you know, 121 people paying 121 quid. You know, it's affordable and it really helps with the racing. But you know, there's an old saying: if it ain't broke, don't fix it, isn't there?
Well, that is exactly right, and it seems to work for everyone. I mean, Dave in this chart has put the cost of the bike in, the tyres, the spares, the wets on wheels, the fuel, the entry fees, the number of race days, the number of entries, and then has worked it out as an average cost per race with all of that included. And Thundersport 500 comes out at £113 per race. That's with all of the other stuff included. It's not too bad, is it? Let's be honest with you. But anyway, you wouldn't want to start doing the maths on some of the other championships.
The fire-breathing GP1s.
Yeah, absolutely. A little.
I think it's in the chart as well. Anyway,
it is. Yeah, I won't read through those figures for now. But anyway,
just in case anybody's wife is listening. I never told you, Mum, how much your racing cost.
No, exactly. I don't really want divorce rates to rise during the space of our commentary session here for the Thundersport 500s. Here's John O'Toole, then endurance champion, and having a good crack at this. John O'Toole, if he got himself just a tiny bit of luck and a bit more consistency, could quite easily challenge for a championship like this.
Definitely.
He's just sometimes.
I do hope he does it again next year. Doesn't decide to do that or whatever. If you're going to call it moving up, you know, I think that he could go for the championship quite happily. He absolutely loved the regimentation that Ron Haslam put him through to win the Donington 500. You know, and it was regimented. You know, I mean, sort of Ron knew exactly what to do, and it was piece by piece and put together with a forethought, you know.
John is probably just missing a couple of tenths per lap. That's all it is, 2 or 3 tenths per lap.
Nothing
per race. in order to transfer himself into a rider that might be 4th or 5th in the championship to a rider fighting. This is the battle for the win though. Pete Bardell at the moment, champion-elect ahead of Graham Freer. He's not going to let this one go without a real big fight. Josh Leading in 3rd. Well, he knows that his championship chances are slim, but he's hoping that he can pick up the spoils of what happens here, just so that it can maybe go on one more round. Josh is the type of bloke, I think, that would probably snigger all the way home from Anglesey if he knew that he made Pete Bardell wait for one more round to pick up the championship. Adrian Teasdale, by the way, despite being in complete control of the Senior Cup, looking at the maths, it's a bit complicated with 1 or 2 riders out injured, and it kind of depends on whether John Bolsover returns before the end of the season, but I don't think he's going to get this one mathematically wrapped up here today. It will probably be Alton Park. Pete Bardell, on the other hand, though, as it stands, if the checker flag went out right now, it's his. He is the champion. The easy way of looking at this at the moment is if he finishes ahead of Josh Leading, he's champion, but there are quite a few more permutations involved than that. Here he is leading at the moment. Behind these 3 is Angus Goff once more, then John O'Toole, Adrian Teasdale, James Lee. The same guys as race 1, really. This time around, a shout out to 2 other senior riders battling, trying to get themselves in the top 10. Brett Haley having a good run out, and Neil Attenborough likewise. They're getting closer and closer as another move there from Graham Freer, and on the cutback once more, through comes Pete Bardell. Like clockwork, that one, at the moment.
Also, on Martin Campion, you know, I mean, he's been doing really well. He's sort of come back into this since his son has been leading the freshman 500s, and you know, they've really both done well, and they must have a great time together. Some real laughs.
I'm sure they do. They won't be the first father and son team, and they won't be the last either. Well, in fact, they're not the first. Steptoe was on his backside earlier on, wasn't he?
Yeah, poor old Steptoe.
I hope he's alright, by the way, because I noticed he hasn't gone out in this race, so I hope I'm not doing him a disservice.
No, because he hurt his shoulder, didn't he, back in Rockingham, was it?
Right,
you know, he that did hurt.
Pete
Was
Bardell.
not Rockingham, it was Mallory, wasn't it? I don't think he did Rockingham because of his shoulder.
Well, hopefully he's okay after his tumble in race 1 here at Anglesey. Josh Leading, his son, just struggling at the moment to cling on to these 2 who are involved in a proper scrap out front. Are we going to see Freer once again just showing his front end up the inside? Yep, there he is again, and the cutback this time doesn't happen. So he's had a couple of dress rehearsals at that, Graham Freer. This time he makes it count. Now then, in race 1, when Graham Freer got through to Peel ahead of Pete Bardell, Pete in the end didn't have an answer for him. Does Pete just hang on in there at the moment, knowing that he will be champion or not? There's Adrian Teasdale having a big look over his shoulder. He's got a few seconds over James Lee in the race at the moment.
You see, if you were Pete, you know, I don't like to say that I know. Oh, who's that? Who's that?
Not 100% sure until we see the number. Oh, that's 22. It's Martin Campion. You commentary curse
Oh,
there.
not again! I'm not going to mention anybody
I'll
anymore.
tell you what, guys, we've been in the commentary box now, commentating on most of the races of Thundersport GP, and the commentary curses that have come out from Syd have been breathtaking so far today.
Now, if I was Pete, you see, I would go, well, do you know what? I've got the championship here, then I can just enjoy my racing for the rest of the season as champion. Because obviously Joe Barton took it here last year, didn't he? I think.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, he did. I'm sure he did. Which is quite early to wrap up a championship at this level, bearing in mind how close this normally is. 2 rounds early is quite something else, really. But I don't know whether he's going to have a go back.
Well, I have to say that with it being Pete Bardell, I think he'll probably try and have another nibble before the race is up, because his lead is just so big in this championship. It doesn't really matter either way. But anyway, we'll find out in a moment as they go across the line to peel off another lap. Talking of Barton, as soon as I got names mixed up, I should just say to our double champion, of course, of last year in Thundersport 500, congratulations to him and Naomi on their engagement.
Indeed.
I saw that on social media, so many congrats to you two. And yeah,
he's an old romantic, isn't he?
Oh,
he knows how to do it.
Yeah. Give it a couple of years and
Tell you what.
he'll soon be bored of all that and he'll be back here again. Take it from me, Joe. I'm only joking. Many congratulations to the pair of you. We wish you many.
Know what? I think you might have it right. Yeah, wish him very many years of happiness, both of them. They're both lovely people anyway.
Pete Bardell's been doing the maths now on his bike. He's had a look around. He's thought about it. This is racing at the end of the day. Pete Bardell doesn't really want to be beaten by Graham Freer. He is going to have a go if the opportunity presents itself. We're on board with him now on his RP Motorsport Honda. Irish Sea up ahead of you to the right there. Drop it into the corkscrew. Graham Freer has been very good here today. Probably the best we've seen him on TV day. On to the start-finish straight we go. Another lap ticked off. This time the last lap flag is out. It's now or never for Pete. They have dropped Josh Leaning. He doesn't have a part to play here. So yeah, basically Bardell has this to think about. He is champion as it stands. He'll be champion if he wins as well. Does he want to become champion winning the race? He's going to have a go, Sid. He's definitely lining this one up. He's not quite close enough at the moment, but this is a really important and key corner around Church as he now tries to get into the slipstream. He's going to have one last go at this. Into the slipstream we go, and Pete Bardell takes the lead. Lovely there from Bardell. Now Graham Freer isn't going to have any of this. He's been strong on the brakes uphill. And they're both sideways. That is your classic block pass. Bit cheeky there from Graham Freer, but he doesn't care. So then, now, has Pete Bardell got anything left in the tank? This is the part of the circuit that Graham Freer seems to be particularly strong.
Graham would be laughing in that helmet, I tell you.
I'm not sure whether Pete will risk anything more now. I think that was it. I think that was your chance. There's a back marker as well in the middle of the corkscrew. Is there anything left in this? We're about to come up onto the last corner. I don't think he's quite close enough to have a go. No, he's decided right at the last minute that's enough. A great win for Graham Freer. He wasn't having any of that today. And either way, a big round of applause and many congratulations to Pete Bardell, who takes second and ultimately takes the 2017 championship. Thoroughly deserved. Well done to Peter. Third for Josh Leaning, fourth for Angus Goff, John O'Toole there in fifth, and sixth for Adrian Teasdale. And there you see on the podium, the top three, Graham Freer having a bit of a laugh there with the new champion, Pete Bardell. Further down, of course, Adrian Teasdale, he won't have long to wait until he picks up his senior championship. Confirmation then in the points, there it is, a 213-point lead with 2 rounds still to go. Josh Leaning second, Graham Freer's now moved up to third, ahead of the absent Will, John O'Toole fifth, Angus Goff sixth. In the seniors, Adrian Teasdale then won't have long to wait until that one's all secure. Alan Tanton won't be at Alton Park. John Bolsover, well, we'll have to wait and see if he recovers from injury. In the Thundersport 500 freshman, a well done to Adam Campion, Martin's son. Martin may be out of the last race, but his son has done it. He is the freshman champion of 2017. That's it from us here at Anglesey. Let's find out if the Senior Cup can be decided next time out at Alton. It's the penultimate round. We'll see you over in Cheshire.